Tonight, the Medical Association says more than a quarter of the people in this province don't have a family doctor. Now the health department is spending big money on a high-tech solution.
Newfoundland and Labrador will pay a private company $22 million over the next 2 years to provide virtual primary care and emergency care.
It is a better way of delivering care. It certainly, we're not talking about 100% virtual care, for sure that's not the case. But there is a role for virtual care in how we deliver services.
I'll have more later in the show.
Officer safety is a monstrous issue for us, as well as public safety.
Making it modern. From recruiting to complaints, a new working group is reviewing policing in the province.
I actually go after the other species. I've seen them destroy salmon, I've seen them go after lobsters. There's nothing they'll back down from.
Keeping the green crab at bay. One woman sees the economic opportunities in garnish, so why isn't government on board?
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin with health care. The province is paying a private company $22 million to provide virtual care to improve access to a doctor. Over the next 2 years, Teladoc Health Canada is contracted to provide doctors for both primary and emergency care virtually. Here and Now's Mark Quinn reports.
So we strongly recommend embracing virtual care.
We don't have enough family doctors for everyone, and we don't have enough doctors to keep all the province's emergency departments open 24/7. The health department says virtual care provided by a private company will help solve those problems.
Teladoc Health Canada provides services in Canada and around the world, including partnering with public healthcare systems. Teladoc will now be offering technology and physician services in Newfoundland and Labrador.
And the doctor leading the long-term transformation of this province's healthcare system says virtual care is not a temporary measure.
It's the future, and that there are engagements with physicians that do not necessarily have to be face-to-face, and sometimes they're impossible face-to-face for isolation reasons. And I think that COVID demonstrated that it's feasible to do virtual care reasonably well, and I think that we'll have to extend it to tertiary care. So I think we will be embracing, in the medicine of the future, we will be embracing virtual care.
Osborne says the contract with Teladoc stipulates that the company can't actively recruit physicians in Newfoundland and Labrador. But there's nothing to prevent a community-based doctor, a retired doctor, or even a salaried doctor from choosing to work for Teladoc.
We can't dictate where a physician may want to work.
Doctors who work for Teladoc will be available by video or phone. They'll be paid about the same as doctors billing the province for their services, and of course the company that provides them will expect to be paid for its services too. A Newfoundland company that already provides virtual care in this province says it could have provided the same services for much less and kept the money in Newfoundland and Labrador.
So for a third of the cost, I'm confident that Medicuro would have been able to offer the same service. We have a variety of physicians in our team of 25, and most of those are very competent and actually already work in emergency services. And a lot of us, including myself, already do a lot of virtual ER.
The health minister said 15,000 patients in this province who don't have a family doctor now can begin using Teladoc within this month. He also said Teladoc will begin providing emergency services later this week, starting in New West Valley. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, about 80 members of the Sudanese and Muslim communities in St. John's held a funeral this weekend for a man killed by police 5 months ago. 38-year-old Omar Mohammed was shot by an RNC officer at an income support office in June. And as Here and Now's Ariana Calland reports, his funeral was a long time coming.
In gale force winds, a group of men pray and carry the casket of Omar Mohammed, a man unknown to most, but whose story is familiar.
I think it is very beautiful to see that because It has been a long time coming. In Islam, to honor the dead is to bury them as soon as possible.
Mohammed moved to Canada as a refugee in 2014, fleeing the horrors of life as a child soldier in Darfur. Here, he struggled with mental health issues and interactions with the justice system. Then in June, police shot and killed him at an income support office in St. John's. Court filings say Mohammed had a hammer and knife. For a while after his death, this service seemed like it would never happen because of policies at the chief medical examiner's office.
Yeah, you know, like there are a lot of regulation here in Canada. For example, we have to have approval from the next of kin, and none of his next of kin are living here with him in Canada.
It wasn't Interpol who found the family. It was the Muslim and Sudanese communities across Atlantic Canada, who El-Haj says worked tirelessly for months to track down Mohammed's mother. She was living in a village on the border of Chad and Sudan.
When we reached to his mom, she was shocked because this is the first time to hear that he was dead. So it's not easy for his mom to hear that news, and it's not recent. And over that, it's not a normal death. He was shot by the police.
El-Haj says the mother had to go to a refugee camp where someone videotaped her signing documents allowing her son's body to be released.
Thankfully, today it's kind of closure, but we hope for a better closure to know, like a lot of things that we don't know. We just need to bury our brothers and in Islamic way, and we thankfully did that.
Not total closure, they say, until they find out exactly what happened to Omar Mohammed on June 12th. They're waiting on a report from the Serious Incident Response Team, which is investigating his death. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, Torbay.
Well, the Justice Minister is looking for ways to transform and modernize policing in the province. Civilian oversight, recruitment, the police complaints process. As Heather Gillis explains, it's all up for discussion.
Justice Minister John Hogan is on board for a change, announcing a review that could transform and modernize policing in Newfoundland and Labrador. Nothing, he says, is off the table, from recruitment and retention of diverse candidates that reflect the community to new technology in public safety, delivering the service over a vast province, and even strengthening oversight.
Now is the time to evaluate our province's current policing model. Today, I am proud to announce our government is launching a policing transformation working group to review all aspects of police services in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Reviews of this kind have happened in other provinces. Nova Scotia announced one in September. A 2022 review in BC recommended ditching the RCMP and having one provincial force, while a study in Moncton last fall recommended keeping the RCMP in that province but creating a municipal force. Ottawa is also reviewing the RCMP's policing obligations. Newfoundland and Labrador's review will have 2 members from the provincial government and 1 senior member from each the RNC and RCMP. Both forces welcoming the review today, saying crime has changed and so has the way police respond. The public expectation has also changed.
You can't stay stagnant, and police have been criticized for staying the same way in how we respond and what services we provide. We need to get back to the grassroots of providing policing services, what we're trained to do.
The goal is to find the most efficient and effective police, the model that we want to serve. And I mean, it's for the citizens to get the best bang for your buck out of your tax dollars.
Advocacy group First Voice has been specifically calling for civilian oversight of police in the province. Hogan says the review will look at that too.
We can't just say, well, they did it in Manitoba, so we'll do it here. We have to see, well, what did they do in Manitoba, for example? What did it look like? Did it lead to a change in how the public felt about the police?
He says the public complaints process against police will remain the same during the review, but if there are recommendations for change, he says government will look at that too. It's all a move in the right direction, says RNC Chief Pat Roach.
It should never be seen as a negative thing. Recommendations will come out of this.
Meanwhile, the Justice Minister, John Hogan, says there won't be any timeline on the police review. However, he does say that the working group will have short-term and long-term initiatives. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
It's certainly a windy weekend across the province. Take a look at some of these numbers. 162 kilometers per hour for Sagona Island. The Wreck House area saw a wind gust around 151 kilometers per hour. And then really all along the south coast of the island, even Bonavista, 106 kilometers per hour. So we definitely did see some windy weather. Both Gander and St. John's, this is the first time you've seen those winds over 100 kilometers per hour since the winter time last year. So that is said and done. We do have a little area of low pressure just to the south, but for the most part, we're sitting under high pressure across the island, and not a whole lot on the go at the moment, as you can see with the radar, just a little bit of cloud cover around. But the temperature is very different from what we saw this weekend as well. In fact, temperatures down about 3 to 5 or even 7 degrees across most of the island, up across Labrador, even a little bit warmer for those of you in Lab City. You're up about 3 degrees. But as we head through the next couple of days, we're going to hang on to these cooler temperatures, but another warm up as we head towards the weekend. I'll get into the details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. In what is now a weekly event in St. John's, hundreds of people gathered and marched in support of Palestinians caught in the ongoing Israel-Hamas war and to call for a ceasefire. This is the 6th weekend in a row people have rallied here. This weekend, though, the march coincided with a tax-free shopping event downtown, and organizers say it meant more people were around to see the demonstration. The United Nations says more than 1.6 million Gazans have been displaced from their homes since the war started in October. The Israeli government says that's when Hamas militants killed 1,200 people and took more than 240 hostages. The Hamas-run Ministry of Health in Gaza says more than 12,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces. Well, the House of Assembly has wrapped for the year, and though there was a lot of back and forth, one MHA wasn't able to speak for most of the session. That's because NDP leader Jim Dinn won't withdraw language he used that was deemed unparliamentary. And it's not clear when he'll be allowed to speak in the House again. Here Now's Peter Cowan reports.
It's not a day goes by when I question whether I made the right decision.
For almost a month, Jim Dinn hasn't been able to get up in the legislature and ask a question, debate legislation, or even have his vote recorded, all because he said this.
Will the Premier admit that what his minister said is a lie and he has misled the House and the people of this province about the actual numbers of houses built?
The government says it wasn't a lie, the minister misspoke, but a political science professor says there's a reason why the Speaker doesn't want to let one politician accuse another of lying in the House.
And if all we ever had was a legislature where everybody was calling other people liars, nothing would ever get done. So it's up to a speaker to make sure that the tone is civil.
He's far from the first politician to use the word liar. Like with Dinn, the Speaker asks the person to withdraw the comment. Usually they do and everyone moves on, but for almost a month now, Dinn has refused to take back his comments. Sometimes politicians get creative, like Roger Grimes, who leveled this at Danny Williams, who was Premier back in 2004.
Now I expect them from the one-man show who's shown that he is a slick liar. L-A-W-Y-E-R.
Dinn says the lack of answers during question period means he's not missing much by not being able to speak.
I can ask questions in the House and get an answer that either responds to the preamble, that talks about a question that was asked three questions ago, or speak about anything else that comes to their mind. So the fact is I'm out here speaking to the people that really matter.
And Alex Marlin says the importance of what's said in the House has changed.
At a certain time. Now you can communicate with people through social media. Now there's fewer journalists paying attention to what goes on in the House. So whether you are there or not matters a lot less than it did at one time.
The Legislative Library can't find anyone who's gone longer in the legislature without being able to speak, so Din has already set a record. He won't have to decide whether to withdraw his comments and return to asking questions and debating legislation until the House resumes on March 4th. Peter Cowan, CBC News, St. John's.
About 100 home care workers came together for a conference in St. John's over the weekend ahead of contract negotiations. The union's current collective agreement with 4,000 workers over 19 provincial home care agencies expires at the end of March. Benefits and compensation are two of the big issues. Unionized home care workers currently make $16.95 an hour. NAPE President Jerry Earle says that needs to change.
They love what they do, but they can't really afford what they do. Like in some cases, they're getting 2 hours work a day and have to leave one community and drive to another community. I talked to a home care worker last night who has 3 jobs in order to survive. I know others out there in Newfoundland and Labrador do that. Nobody should have to do that, especially somebody providing such an essential service as home care, and we have to work to change that.
Well, just over a week past his 14th birthday, a Gander Bay teen can add a milestone in his journey to become a pilot. Riley Daly-Clark has just completed his first solo flight. Here now's Troy Turner has the story.
It's a beautiful fall day at the Gander International Airport. There's a slight breeze, enough for the cool air to cut through a layer of clothing. Above the ramps and runways, a plane circles the area. Just a 10-minute flight. Ordinary, uneventful, unless you're the pilot or his supporters on the ground watching.
It feels great. It was the dream I had, and I'm really glad that I got to complete it, and just glad that everybody else knows that I completed it.
Riley turned 14 last week. Today, he's hundreds of feet in the air, alone in the cockpit of a small Cessna.
At the start, before we got into the aircraft, I was feeling a bit nervous, but once we got up there and I got used to that aircraft, then it was much easier.
It's only been a year since Riley first discovered the aviation bug. He's soaked up every bit of training possible since then.
One of the few students where I see at that age, maturity in flying, his hands and feet are really good. The control he got over the plane, it's really good. Over the it's all aspects of the flight, over the radio, or the controls, everything, it's like really good.
For aviation buffs, Riley's first solo flight is a big deal.
It's a fairly big milestone. Today the kids are smarter and smarter, and they're wanting technology and doing things earlier and earlier in life. And it's great to see kids doing things like that.
I'm very proud of him. I'm very proud that he did this. He set this goal. He knew what he needed to do. He passed some very hard exams to do it. And he had to go and do very adult things, get a medical, get paperwork from Transport Canada, and he did everything he had to do to get here. He's here because he put the work in. I've done this on my own. It's been me and Riley from the beginning, and he exceeds every expectation I have ever set. He is passionate and confident and calm, where I'm mom and I'm emotional. But I'm super proud of him. I couldn't be any prouder today.
I just knew that I would fly solo, and to trust my instincts and trust my training that Ted just gave me, and Brian and all my previous instructors, and just to trust the aircraft and my instincts.
What's next for Riley? Well, the sky is the limit, as they say. He'll continue his studies in junior high school. Then when he turns 16 or so, he'll look at getting his private pilot's license. Troy Turner, CBC News, Gander.
Well, it's a different kind of Movember in Western Labrador. A man there has cut his foot-long 4-year-old beard for a cause. Ken Tarrant is a cancer survivor. He decided to raise funds for Air Daffodil under the banner Banish the Beard. Here now's Daryl Din brings us his story.
This is Ken Tarrant, just moments before cutting his 4-year-old beard on Saturday, all to raise money for Air Daffodil, a service that covers the cost of flying from Labrador to the island for cancer treatments. His cousin and niece raised the most money, so they earned the right to banish his beard.
Well, if you've seen the beard, I'm really motivated to get rid of it. So, but it's a really good cause, because people from Labrador have, we've been paying a lot of money to get out of here And when people get sick, the money just don't go far enough. So yeah, that's my motivation. Air Daffodil is a great organization.
And what was Terrence Niece's thoughts on the beard?
It's funny, but it's going to be funnier to cut it off too.
Abby, you excited to see the beard go?
I don't know. You ready?
And be gentle, please.
I'm going to take this much first.
Okay.
And I'm just going to go in and go. Wait, it's so satisfying. Oh, yeah. Oh,
That's an intimidating noise. Oh, no.
How does Kent feel about being beardless?
It's 4 years since I've seen my own face, so I'm happy to report I only have one chin.
Tarrant is a cancer survivor, and the beard means a lot to him. He started growing it when he finished chemotherapy treatments 4 years ago.
From that time until about 20 minutes ago, I hadn't shaved. So we confirmed it earlier. I had 17 inches of beard. So that's all gone now. I mean, the reason for all the silliness was, of course, to raise some money for Air Daffodil, which we did, and we done very well. I had expected to raise $2,000 or $3,000, but I just went down and tallied what came in this morning, and we're pushing in on $6,400 now. So I'm very pleased with that. Very pleased with that. Come here, get that hug.
Not everyone was happy with the shave. Terrence's 4-year-old daughter, Abigail, has never seen her dad without his beard. Terrence's daughter aside, everyone else seemed very happy to help banish his beard. I am happy to report that Abigail, his daughter, did warm up to her dad's new face, eventually. Daryl Din, CBC News, Wabash.
It is a lot. It is a lot of juggling. It is quite overwhelming at times.
We're seeing the explosion in people having to pick up a second or a third job.
A master's student working at not one cafe, but two. It's a grind. She can't continue much longer. That story is ahead.
Well, after a busy weather weekend, we got a couple of days of quiet before our next system moves in. We'll get into all the details when I come back.
Well, it was quite the weather over the weekend with all the wind and the rain, but it was pretty mild.
It was, yeah, especially across the island. We did see, some snow and cooler temperatures and not so nice weather up across Labrador as well. About 16 centimeters was reported in Happy Valley Goose Bay through the weekend. But if you take a look at the temperatures today, very different story across the island. Anywhere from 1 to about 7 degrees as the daytime highs. We should be sitting around 5 to 6 degrees as our daytime highs. And then in and around here across Labrador as well into the minus single digits. That's where you should be sitting. And we're going to stay there for a little bit, at least for the time being. If we take a look at what's going on the satellite radar, not a whole lot. That area of low pressure, just a tiny little area of low pressure. It's going to skirt south of us tonight, keep things quiet for the most part. Just a few lingering flurries at the moment for the west coast, and this is generally going to continue. The winds are a little bit favorable, especially as we get towards the morning hours and the upper levels and towards the surface, that we may see some onshore flurries develop. And if they do, you could pick up a couple of centimeters. Again, likely towards the early morning hours and continuing through the first half of tomorrow. Other than that, really not a whole lot happening. As far as weather is concerned tonight, a little bit of a break, maybe a few flurries for the west, but with some clear skies, cooler temperatures will be the story tonight, especially in those low-lying areas. So areas like Badger will likely see temperatures down into about minus 11, maybe even minus 12 tonight. Most of the island will be sitting somewhere between minus 1 and about minus 8 is your overnight lows with light winds, hence that drop in temperatures. Up across Labrador, a little bit more breezy. Those northwest or west winds will be gusting anywhere from about 40 to 50 kilometers per hour, and temperatures minus single digits, close to about minus 9 will be your overnight low in Lab City. And again, that's the best chance of seeing some flurries tonight. Tomorrow, first half of the day, maybe some onshore flurries, like I said, for the west coast. Other than that, just some cloudy periods. Maybe a shower or flurries for the Avalon as well. I think that's where we'll see the best chance of it under some cloudy skies. But most of Central should see some sunshine tomorrow. Northern Peninsula, same thing. Across Labrador, you're looking at your days generally cloudy. A few peaks of sun, especially towards the coast, though. But other than that, a nice, quiet weather day, which will be pretty lovely. And we're talking about those winds not nearly as strong either, so only gusting somewhere between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour for the most part. But just basically clouds on the increase as the day goes on, as we head towards the early morning hours on Wednesday. Daytime highs tomorrow should stay above 0 for most of eastern Newfoundland, anywhere from about 0 to 2 or 3 degrees. Those winds generally out of the north, around 20 kilometers per hour. Best chance of seeing the sun will be towards the Burin Peninsula, southern areas of the island for most of the day. Otherwise, some cloudy periods. Through Central, chance of a few lingering flurries, especially towards the northeast coast, Bonavista Vista North. Your temperatures between about minus 1 and plus 1 as your daytime highs. And then for those of you towards the west coast, you're looking at northwest winds. Again, models picking up a little bit of that flurry activity, higher elevations, potentially 2, maybe a little bit more than that centimeters in these onshore flurries. So you'll likely just be driving in and out of them if they do develop. They'll be very isolated in nature. And your daytime highs along the south coast of the island will sit between 1 and 2 degrees, and then the west coast a little bit below 0. Lots of sunshine. Northern Peninsula, southeastern portions of Labrador, again, your winds between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. And then the rest of the big land, generally looking at some winds a bit breezy in the morning, especially towards the north, so between 30 to 50, but as the day goes on, your winds will ease. And you're looking at temperatures into the minus single digits. Again, this is right around where you should be sitting this time of year. A few flurries, rather, towards the coast. Certainly possible, really scattered across the big land, but we're looking at a little bit of a warm-up as we head towards the weekend for the island, but a big drop in temperatures across the big land, back down potentially to the minus 20s as our overnight lows, but I will break all of that down for you coming up.
In our CBCNL series, The Grind, we're giving you an inside look into the lives of those working multiple jobs just to get by, struggling with the ever-rising cost of living. Tonight, reporter Malone Mullen introduces us to Shramona Shorkar, a master's student and teaching assistant, juggling 3 precarious jobs and trying her best to make it all work.
This is where Shramona Shorkar is spending more and more of her time, making coffee for $15 an hour. If she's not here, she's likely at her other job, at a different coffee shop. But this is where Shorkar is supposed to be, in her campus office, working on lesson plans and studying for her master's degree. She wants to be a geologist, but for now, she's caught between a rock and a hard place.
I'm working on my teaching assistant job and second cup and the cat cafe, and also trying to focus on my course and my research. So it is a lot. It is a lot of juggling. It is quite overwhelming at times.
It wasn't always this way. When Shorkar moved to St. John's in 2018, life was much more affordable.
I only had one job, which was enough to be able to afford rent and also keep some money aside for groceries as well. But slowly over the years, like I've seen the shift where from one job now I have 3.
The rising cost of living has left Shorkar with little choice but to spend less time on her education and more time making ends meet. Every week she rides this bus to get to her various jobs around the city. But because those jobs are part-time, she doesn't know how many hours she'll get in a week, when her shifts will be, or how much money she'll be taking home.
Because everything feels so overwhelming and I know that I have so much to do, I find it very hard to get out of bed. And sometimes I'm just, even if I'm up early right on time, I wake up on my alarms, I can't get out of bed because the thought of having to do so many things just sort of paralyzes me and I'm unable to do anything about it.
She's not alone. From middle-class families to recent graduates, experts say more and more people are working multiple jobs to cover basic necessities.
There's real insecurity out there, and I think what's very sad is that the insecurity impacts most vulnerable groups a lot more than the average person. And that's why we're seeing the explosion in precarious work, the explosion in people having to pick up a second or a third job.
It's a crisis driven by recent events, the pandemic, the housing shortage, inflation. But throughout history, workers have often been pushed to the brink. And there are ways they've pushed back.
It's through organizing collectively and pressuring governments and employers to make changes, right? The kind of boom in education, and again, the post-World War II period where more people were going to university and stuff like that, a lot of that was being funded by, tax dollars, by governments saying we see an inherent value in training a workforce, and so we are going to prioritize that.
If her daily grind doesn't change, Shorkar may have to take her degree somewhere else. She just can't see staying in Canada if the cost of living remains this high.
I just sort of struggle with this by myself, and it's repeating every day, and that's basically how every day goes, and I'm just like, I have to do this. There's no other way right now.
For now, she's on the hamster wheel. Maybe tomorrow she'll get further ahead. Malone Mullen, CBC News, St. John's.
Hi, I'm Paula Gale, host of The Broadcast. I'm here in the beautiful town of Garnish on the Burin Peninsula. We're here to bring you stories like this. There's a lot of potential in these green crab. So how do you change government's mind about them? Stay tuned for stories from the Burin Peninsula on The Broadcast and Here and Now.
More and more women are taking up salmon angling, and it's not always about catching fish. Watch Seeking Salmon and Serenity, Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
The Burin Peninsula is overrun with green crab, and that's a problem. According to DFO, the invasive species can upset the balance of ecosystems, feeding on small fish, mussels, and lobster, destroying habitats. A woman in Garnish is trying to maintain the balance through fishing and other enterprises, but says government is slow to show support. She spoke with the broadcast's Todd O'Brien.
That's a male green crab. And this one here is the female. Green crab are an invasive species that are very destructive. They tear up our eelgrass beds, which are the juvenile habitats for most fish species. It's almost like a nursery. So, I mean, if you got those guys coming in and destroying the nursery, I mean, what happens to all the baby species then? And not only do they tear up the eelgrass, but they'll actually go after the other species. I've seen them destroy salmon. I've seen them go after lobsters. Like, there's nothing they'll back down from. My daughter was the one who found green crab. She used to be down playing on the beaches all the time here in the Burrisway, and she came back, she goes, "Mom, what's wrong with this crab? It looks funny." And when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, that's green crab. And I knew that they were in Placentia Bay at the time, but that was like really the first time seeing them here in Garnish. So then we started contacting DFO. We got some green crab pots sent out to us, and for the last 7 or 8 years now, we've been fishing green crab and trying to help combat the problem we've got here with the green crab in Fortune Bay. And I've also been coming up with markets for green crab. So there's a lot of really good nutrients. Green crab actually can contain a lot of protein, calcium, omega-3, any fatty acids that are essential to humans. I mean, you pretty much find it in a green crab. I've got markets with it for human consumption, and I've also been making dog treats out of it. So I've been utilising it to feed my dogs and my friends' dogs. Yeah, I've been crushing them up and feeding them to my chickens, and it's actually a great source of calcium, so it helps with the strengthening of the shells, and it's a good protein source for them as well.
Okay, so it sounds like you've got a lot of opportunity here to do things with green crab, but why aren't you doing it?
Pretty much, I just haven't been able to get the go-ahead by DFO and the government. I mean, that's the only thing holding me back. I mean, right now I'm in the process of trying to get permits to send a small shipment to Asia of frozen green crab, just to actually get it into Asia, just so that we can start trying to work on getting the ship back and forth between there. Our government and DFO is just not proactive enough. They want people to fish them, but they don't seem to want anybody to be making money off of it for some unknown reason. And it's kind of sad because down in the States, they've actually got a pot to plate program on the go where they're actually getting it into restaurants and into people's homes for people to have. And Nova Scotia's been using it as a bait source for lobsters. So you can buy a crate of green crab up there for $100. And then, like, say you got PEI who's working on doing a soft shell green crab, because I mean, soft shell green crab are a delicacy. So I'm hoping by getting the processing license, this will be another level to help me push the government to give me and my husband the rights to be able to fish the green crab and to process the green crab here in Newfoundland.
Well, it's a little known fact, but for generations, Halifax Harbour has had an active lobster fishery. That won't be so this season, which is just a week away. Authorities say they'll be enforcing an existing rule which prohibits people from fishing too close to a Halifax pier. Paul Withers has more.
The harbour restrictions have now been made part of lobster fishermen's license conditions issued earlier this month by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. With lobster season 1 week away, fisherman Craig Hartland says the license conditions will cost him most of what was prime fishing grounds.
If you measure from this wharf here, 300 meters, that takes that out.
Right, they've effectively what? Cut
They cut the whole harbor out pretty much. We usually fish the whole of Halifax Harbor, right up to the basin. Not going to be able to fish there anymore. We've been fishing there for as long as I can remember, and people's grandfathers. And they never came and seen us or discussed it with us.
He's one of a half dozen or more who regularly fish inside the harbor at some point during the 6-month season, in his case mostly on the Dartmouth side. The 300-meter exclusion zone has been part of port rules for years, but usually results in warnings only. DFO license conditions have more teeth, with penalties for violations that are enforced. It was included at the request of Harbour Master Adam Parsons.
I've asked for the license conditions to be aligned with our port information guide and the rules and regulations. Again, the reason for that is the safety of vessels navigating within the harbour. The timing of that is coincidental with the fact that there have been some situations where equipment's been in the way and creating unsafe situations for vessels operating in the harbour.
No surprise it does not sit well with Craig Hartland. He says he's not aware of incidents and fishermen move whenever asked.
I think we could have sat down reasonably and discussed about where we should put the traps, where we can't put the traps, and just talk about it instead of just giving us these conditions where it just takes all our bottom.
The harbour master is not persuaded.
There's still plenty of other space and areas within the port where fishing can take place and can take place safely and not impact the safety of vessels operating.
As for Fisheries and Oceans, they're on board. They say they changed the license conditions to ensure unimpeded commercial and Navy vessel traffic in the harbour. Paul Withers, CBC News, Halifax.
Only 38 sleeps until Christmas, but if you're looking to get into the spirit sooner, the Christmas house may be the place for you. The store on the Marchant Road in St. John's is chock full of locally made gifts, and we took a tour with co-owner Ivy Henley.
So I'm going to bring you guys around to look at all the different local goods that we have here, open 7 days a week. We have everything from locally made handcrafted mummers, these amazing Newfoundland themed ornaments that are made right here in Newfoundland. That's the big thing about the Christmas house here at 314 Le Marchant Road, is that everything, 90% of what we have, is actually put together here in Newfoundland by local Newfoundland and Labradorians, and we're really, really proud of that. So now we're in the giftware room. So this room is full of all different art that is hand painted right here in Newfoundland. And our next room is actually the clothing alley. So this room here is full of locally designed, and some of them are even cut, sewn, and made here as well. So I'm just coming in here now to the beauty parlor. So in this room, we have over 10 different companies that make locally made bath and beauty products. We have everything from shampoo, we have conditioner, we have bath bombs, bath salts, soap. And the next section here is actually the kitchen, and we also have some art here as well. So we have a massive choice of different prints from local watercolor artists, paintings, digital art. It just keeps going. The list goes on and on.
Frightening creatures roamed through the streets of a Slovenian town on the weekend, sending shivers down the spines of children. These critters were part of the traditional Krampus parade. Oh, the mythical Krampus first surfaced hundreds of years ago in Austria to punish naughty children. It gives misbehaving kiddos lumps of coal instead of traditional holiday gifts. It is the devilish counterpart to St. Nicholas. Organizers of the parade say the event attracts participants and spectators from all across Central Europe. A group of Canadian MPs visited a kibbutz north of Tel Aviv today to express their solidarity with Israelis.
It was really moving. It really made it very personal. It made me understand what it was like to live in a safe room, wondering if you were going to be alive for the very next minute or if your loved ones were going to be killed from moment to moment for over 24 hours. It explains a lot about the Israeli perception, why the entire political class in Israel, from the left to the right, all believes they need to get rid of Hamas.
The 2 Liberal and 3 Conservative MPs are part of a larger Canadian delegation to Israel. Today, they listened to accounts from survivors of the October 7th attack by Hamas and visited a cemetery where some of the victims are buried. The latest developments from the war between Israel and Hamas have seen fighting move to the doorstep of another hospital in northern Gaza. Video shows Israeli tanks within a few hundred meters of the Indonesian hospital, which was built using donations from citizens of the Asian country. Staff say the building was hit by shelling early this morning. Like most health facilities in northern Gaza, it has largely ceased normal operations. It's unclear how many people, including patients, staff, and displaced people, are at the hospital. Meanwhile, the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City remains under Israeli control, though 28 premature babies from the facility are now under care in Egypt. We'll be right back. right, so time now to have a look at the long-range forecast. Last week it was pretty quiet all week, and then we got to the weekend when all the weather came. What kind of week is in store for us this week?
Yeah, kind of the same thing, except we're going to see a system move in a little bit earlier than it did last week. So let's take a look at what's going on. As you head into your Tuesday evening into Wednesday, there's a ridge of high pressure that will dominate the weather for the most part through the overnight and into the morning hours for most of the island. Now, we will see clouds on the increase as the day goes on, and especially up across Labrador when a little bit of a trough moves through. That's going to bring the potential for some snow again to areas through Lab West, eventually the north coast of the island as well as you head into the evening hours. But really, other than that, we've got that southerly flow moving back in, more northerly flow on the other side of the province, so that is going to keep things a little bit unsettled, especially for the avalanche. So you're going to still hang on to the chance of a few flurries through the day, and the temperatures will be hovering near or just a little bit below zero pretty much across the board. Maybe for the southwest, you may see your temperatures dip up or climb up above zero for your Wednesday, but other than that, we're well below where we should be sitting this time of year across Labrador, pretty much where you should be sitting, anywhere from about -1 to -4. And again, those flurries or light snow moving east as the day goes on. So Wednesday evening and into Thursday, central areas of Labrador and then towards the coast, we'll start seeing that potential for some flurries. We should stay clear for the most part for the first half of the day across the island, just those clouds on the south coast. And again, we're in that southerly flow, and that means we are in for another warm-up through the evening hours and into Friday, rather. So this one looks like it should either start as some flurries, maybe even some freezing rain for the southwestern portion before we see those temperatures bump up above zero and change back over to rain. But this will be our next weather maker. Temperatures will be hovering near or just below zero for a good chunk of the island through the day on Thursday. Along the south coast, though, you should hover around 2 to 3 degrees, and Labrador anywhere from about +2 to -2 across the big land. And again, that snow will move in as the day goes on. Now, as we head into Friday, that's when the majority of that warm air will move in, talking about temperature around 10 degrees for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. But again, your overnight low going to drop back down, so temperatures dramatically different into the evening hour down to the 0 degree mark, and then we're going to stay around 2 degrees as we head into Saturday, but at this point looks like it should clear out. Now for central Newfoundland, that'll either be showers or flurries, like I said, that transition period there, and then flurries still on Saturday. Same thing for western Newfoundland as your temperatures hover between 3 and 4 degrees, so not nearly as warm as your daytime highs. And then for eastern Labrador, a few flurries Thursday night, continuing into Friday with that light snow, and then dropping in temperatures for your Saturday. Look, your overnight lows in Lab West down to the -20s. It's getting to be that time of year. Our photo of the day is the sunset in Marystown. This was yesterday.
Oh, nice.
And Julie captured this beautiful shot. Love the blues, love the pinks, the purples.
Yeah.
Dramatic. Thank you so much for that. If you have any weather photos, you can send them to my Facebook page or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Yeah, that is a gorgeous shot, Julie. Thank you so much for that. I wonder how much snow did they get in Labrador over the weekend?
Happy Valley Goose Bay picked up 16 centimeters.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know there were other areas that saw some higher amounts, but we don't have any.
Right.
We don't have anybody
measuring
for us.
Right. It's a big province.
It is.
All right. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.